to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the longest-running Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
We're always in control, and when you say Miami, you're talking to Merkel, because we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins #1.
Hello, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast on this Wednesday, November the 12th. I am your host, Mike Oliva, joined as I am each and every Wednesday night by Tom Ernest. Thomas, how you doing today? You're muted. You're muted, Tom. The show's off to a rough start already because you are muted. Tom is muted and he can't get off mute. Tom, you're still freaking muted. Try to mute yourself through StreamYard. See, we can't find good help these days. You were off muted for a second. There you go. You cannot find good help these days, people. I swear to God. You cannot find good help these days.
I don't understand how that happened.
We're 3 seconds into the show.
Listen, okay. I provide the comedic relief here on this show.
Yeah, you sure did. How you doing, Tom?
I'm doing great, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's a Wednesday. Miami's won 2 of their last 3 games. We'll ignore the one in the middle that they lost. They've won 2 of their last 3 games. They just beat the stinking Buffalo Bills. Screw Buffalo. And life is good. We got a 9:30 a.m. game. You know what that means? Earlier post-game wrap-up show, which means we got the rest of the day to ourselves.
Oh, I love breakfast ball. It's my favorite thing that they do once every 3-4 years.
Yeah, it's not beautiful. Bad. So we got lots to talk about on today's show. We'll talk about the Washington game. We got a ton of news. We got a little front office shakeup with the Dolphins. That's not Chris Greer. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about on today's show. Before we get to any of that, as always, a shout out to everyone. A shout out to the sponsor of today's show, Caneswear. Everyone go to the website, caneswear.com. Take a second now. Don't close out the show, but go to caneswear.com. They got the best apparel, the most affordable apparel for if you are looking for Miami Dolphins gear, Florida Panthers gear, Miami Hurricanes gear, Heat gear, Marlins gear. They got it all. Christmas is coming up, Hanukkah's coming up, or whatever you celebrate come the end of the year. Great gifts. Want to treat yourself? Caneswear.com. If you're in South Florida, I highly recommend going to their store, 2655 South University Drive in Davie, Florida. Tell them Mike from Dolphins Talk sent you. They might give you a little bit off. Who knows? But go to caneswear.com on the website for sure. They ship internationally. They got everything for the home. They got all the merchandise, hats, hoodies, shirts, jerseys, jackets, whatever, stuff for the home, stuff for the car, caneswear.com. Shout out to everyone watching us live at the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page. My brother, great Carlos Hernandez. Also, Dolphins Talk Extra. We have a great thing coming up at Dolphins Talk Extra for that Jets-Miami game in about, 2 or 3 weeks. But no, about 1 month. We're doing brunch at Dolphins Talk. Josh and Aaron are coming to my house. Tom, you are invited as well. And we're going to have a food spread. We're going to eat. We're going to watch the game. We're going to live stream during the game. But you got to be a Dolphins Talk Extra member. So you got to go to patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. You also get a private message board. You also get automatic entries into all of our contests. We have exclusive contests where you can win autographed memorabilia. You get extra podcasts, some about the Dolphins, some not. It's great. And if you're watching us live on YouTube right now, do us a favor, smash the like button, drop us a comment, and super chats are open. Leave us a super chat, and we will read it on the air. Okay, Tom, we got some news. Someone might actually be coming back from IR. I don't know if it's going to be this week, but there's a chance because they opened up the 21-day window for Austin Jackson. So not Liam Eichenberg, not Andrew Myers, not James Daniels, not Jason Sanders, but Liam Eichenberg might be coming back here as they open up the 21-day window. Now, you have to remember, I don't think he's coming back this week because next week they have a bye. So it's probably looking like after the bye, Austin Jackson will regain his spot at the starting right tackle. And don't shed a tear. That means Larry Bourne will be going to the bench.
You said Liam Eichenberg because I know you miss him, but it was Austin Jackson. You started with it.
Oh, I said it wrong? Okay.
No, it's okay. It's all right. I know that you crave the Liam Eichenberg at the right time.
Yeah.
But no, it's good to see at least Austin Jackson is alive.
Yes. Foot wasn't amputated, I guess.
As long as his foot wasn't amputated, that's good. And I would take a one-legged Austin Jackson over Larry Borum any day of the week. We'll see what happens. Obviously, they open his window, which means that the likelihood is he's going to be starting after the bye week, because the bye week, he at least, gets a little bit more rest. He's going to get reps in practice, and he'll be ready to go probably for after the bye. Now, what they decide to do with everybody else is probably going to hinder on how this game goes on Sunday morning. If the Dolphins find a way to win their second game in a row over Washington and going into the bye week, you got back-to-back games against the Jets and New Orleans and the Jets. So you have the road in front of you. We'll see what happens Sunday morning before they make any other decisions with anybody else. But good to see Austin Jackson back at practice.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when they really needed him at the start of the year, he wasn't there. So that kind of does stink. But here at the end of the year, they got, it is what it is. They are a 3-7 team. So he might be back though here probably after the bye week. Also, today in Spain, because the team got to Spain on Monday, late Monday, Rasul Douglas and Aaron Brewer did not practice. Their status for Sunday is up in the air. So we'll find out more about that. And for Washington, most of this is common knowledge stuff, but no Jaden Daniels, their quarterback, no Terry McLaurin, and no Deron Payne as he is suspended. So Washington's a hurting team right now, and they're going to be shorthanded here. And they're on a 5-game losing streak too, and they're going to be shorthanded. So Washington's coming to this game hurt. And for Miami, we'll find out more about Rasul Douglas and Aaron Brewer. I did see Ashton Davis was limited in practice, so odds are he'll be able to return to the lineup on Sunday morning. All right, Tom. On Monday, the Miami Dolphins fired 2 front office executives, 2 Chris Greer's guys, as they say. Adam Ingroff, who has been with the Dolphins since 2015, and Anthony Hunt, get this, who's been with the Dolphins since 1994. That's right, 1994, in various roles. They were both the co-directors of player personnel, guys who reported straight to Chris Greer, guys who Chris Greer put in that role. And, Hunt was here, prior to Greer, which is almost amazing, but guys who rise up the ranks with Greer, and when he came into power, he put them in big roles, and they're gone, which not surprising because what we heard out of South Florida when they fired Chris Greer on Halloween was that the Miami Dolphins, the head coaching thing, which we'll talk about soon, that's a whole different thing. But the front office, they want to reshape the front office with a new vision. And that means anyone who has ties to Chris Greer ain't going to be here long. Now, everyone in the front office has a role and a title. Some guys like this, because the season's pretty much over, co-directors of player personnel, you can get rid of now because there's nothing to do right now. Season's over. So those guys can be fired now. Some of the other guys, like the low-level scouts, like an area scout, a national scout, those types of roles, they're going to stay a little longer. Now, the lowest level guys who are out there on the road, who are going to games between Syracuse and Pittsburgh or going to Wake Forest versus Clemson, like those guys aren't going to get fired till after the draft because you can't fire them in November or January or February because the work's being done right now for this upcoming draft. So whoever the new GM is, whether it's Champ Kelly or someone from the outside, they're going to inherit those guys for this draft because you can't fire them all and put them back in a time machine and replay all the college games and send the guys you want to those games. So the lower level guys stay on till after the draft, and usually they're all fired after the draft. That's just how the timeline works in the NFL. But some of these guys who are a director of national scouting, they might be let go now or like in, next month or in January because their role, which is a little bit higher overall, you don't really need because the new guy is going to bring in his own people. So what are your thoughts here on the 2 front office execs who've been here for a while? One guy's been here for 10 years. One guy's been here since 1994, being shown the door.
Don't know him, but good riddance. Anything attached to
Jeez, a little harsh. Don't
anything. Listen, anything related to Chris Greer, like you said, They have to go. And I get the sentiment with the college scouts. You're not going to get rid of them. They're so knee deep into this that, they started back all the way in August with a lot of these guys that are going to be in the NFL draft. And you can't say goodbye to them at this point because they have the input that you need to make some decisions. Will they be gone after April? Probably, unless they do a phenomenal job. But guess what? Those guys were here for the last draft, the 2025 draft, which right now on paper in 2025 has sucked. It sucked. They missed out on a lot of good players. But obviously time will tell with, the Kenneth Grants of the world, the Jonas Donovans of the world.
Early reports are bad.
There's time. But what they decided to do right now in hindsight has not been good. So good riddance to the two guys that I have no clue about, but because they're attached to Chris Greer's hip, get them out. Let's start anew and move forward. And hopefully the Dolphins have a very successful draft with the guys that they currently have in play, but not holding my breath just yet until we know who the general manager is going to be.
Yeah, and I know so right now you got Champ Kelly as the interim, and I know there was a report from Mike Florio that from people he spoke to with the Miami Dolphins that there's a 0.0% chance he will keep the job, which I tend to agree because although I had someone on social media fight me about this, Chris Greer brought him in too. When Reggie McKenzie left, Chris Greer hired Champ Kelly. I know some people don't think that counts, but technically Chris Greer brought him in. Now, I did have someone argue with me. I don't know how you argue this fact. We had an opening. Chris Greer filled the opening with Champ Kelly. But some people don't want to believe reality because they're so far in the freaking bubble. They make up their own reality. But Champ Kelly was brought in by him too. Now, I think he'll be given a fair shot, and he'll obviously sit for the position and get an interview. And if he gives a great interview and he shares his vision, maybe he'll get the job. But I tend to agree with what Mike Florio said. But I will say this, though, too. I spoke to someone who was at the game at Hard Rock on Sunday. This is the first game post Chris Greer. Champ Kelly was everywhere. He was in the locker room. He was on the field, visible. And he was very, interactive with the players. So something that Greer wasn't, let's just say. I mean, he was there, but he wasn't interacting with he was there, but he wasn't, call the jokes. He was hiding behind the post. Well, yeah, kind of, but not really in so many words. So Champ Kelly, was walking around like he owned the place. Like he's been in this role for 25 years, let's just say, but which he's only been in the role for 10 days. So I think, I think having that approach, whoever the new guy is, of just being visible, interacting with the players, interacting with the coaches on a Sunday when they have a game, I think it's refreshing. Now, that doesn't mean he should be handed the job because they won one Sunday in November. No, that's just, it happened. Great. But I don't think he's got a very strong chance of landing this job. But look, stranger things have happened. This is the Dolphins, and trying to read the mind of Mr. Ross is, you got a better chance. I don't know. Anything's possible. Let's just say that.
Real quick before we move off that topic, you mentioned Stephen Ross. Maybe Champ Kelly's being more visible because there are other people. And we talked about it earlier in the season that how much more is his son-in-law and daughter kind of getting involved with football ops. We see him there a lot now. We see a lot of pictures of his kids who are going to be taking over the ownership group for the Miami Dolphins. They've been more visible this year than they've had in the past. So maybe Champ Kelly is showing off for the potential new bosses. But that's just my theory, but it is good, like you said, to see him being visible and being interactive with the players. He did trade Jalen Phillips. That is his third round.
Well, he didn't trade him.
Well, the group
yeah.
traded, but one way or the other, he's the interim GM. So he has a piece of that, of acquiring that pick.
Yeah.
Whether he gets the job long-term or not is yet to be decided. It's really what happens the rest of the season that gives us that determination if he's got a chance at the job. But I agree with Florio. I don't think he's I don't think he's in the clubhouse lead at any stage at this point. I think they truly will interview him because they did bring him in for a reason. But they're going to be bringing in a lot of the outside guys too. So you got him in house. You see how he does. He may have a leg up based on how the season goes, but you're bringing in the other guys that, we don't really know the names, but we should know the teams, right? Philadelphia, Buffalo, Kansas City, Baltimore,
Chargers.
The Chargers. You're bringing in those types of players. You're not going out and interviewing a guy that is associated with Jacksonville. You're not bringing in a guy that's currently associated with Cincinnati. But you get the sentiment. You're not going all out to go see the guy in Carolina either. So you want to go from a winning pedigree. Those are the guys you bring in for interviews.
Yeah, and we've gone over the names. I've written a few articles on the names. Most of them are with those teams, but there are a couple on teams that might not be great who probably should sit for, like, there's a guy with Chicago who's turned down various jobs who is more than qualified to do one of these jobs. He's just going to wait and pick the right spot. Miami might not be the right spot for him either, but he's someone who I'm going to talk to, even if Chicago finishes under 500, because that's Ian Cunningham. He's turned down jobs because he's like, I'm not just leaving and taking the first job thrown my way, which is a smart thing to do, because the first job you take is that might be the only job you ever get, and don't put yourself in a bad situation. So there are guys on teams that might not be great that they are going to talk to, but in general, yes, Chargers got a guy, Gray for the Bills. They should definitely meet with Terrence Gray for the Bills. And there's a few other guys too. With trying to get someone out of the Ravens is almost impossible. It's just, I wouldn't even waste my time with it, honestly, because they don't leave there. And the guy with the Eagles, I know he's everyone's favorite because Eagles. All I'm going to say is he ain't Howie Roseman. Okay, he ain't Howie Roseman. So if you're getting Howie Roseman 2.0, you're not. You're getting the guy who sits next to Howie Roseman. And sometimes those guys don't know anything. So, I know he's the guy everyone wants. And I've seen this before with fans of the Dolphins. Look at our quarterback. I want him. Ignore the flaws. I just want him. And then you get him here, and after a year or two, you're like, oh, this was a mistake. So everyone, if they don't hire the guy from the Eagles, don't flip out, because he might not be the best candidate. And I know fans get their heart set on one guy, and anyone else they take, oh, he sucks. Why? Because he's not that one guy. It's like, oh, yeah. That drives you nuts. Okay, let's talk Mike McDaniel. Look, he beat the Jets, who aren't any good. He beat the Falcons when they were without their quarterback and their top wide receiver. And yes, he has a quality win versus the Bills. I'm going to take the quality win versus the Bills. Let's put it off to the side. Now, coming up, they got Washington, who's got half their team hurt, and plus they stink anyways. He's got the Saints, who stink. The Jets, who waved the white flag on the season. And the Cincinnati team, yes, they'll probably have back their quarterback, but they can't stop a runny nose. If Mike McDaniel ends this year with 6 or 7 wins, and all the wins are Jets, Falcons, Washington, Cincinnati, Jets again, Saints, and then, yes, the one good win versus the Bills, pretty much he ends the year with one quality win. You got 6 wins or 7 wins, one quality win. Now, I know we think he ain't getting fired anyways, but let's put that aside too. How do you think the fan base would react if this team wins 6 or 7 games and the only quality win is versus the Bills? Do you think the fan base is okay knowing they beat up on a bunch of trash teams and that's going to be enough to save his job? And do you think the owner and the people around him are that dumb not to realize he had one real win all year versus the Bills and all the rest of the wins were against teams that were actually worse than us? So what's your thoughts on the fans versus the owner? Would the fans be okay with that?
I don't think. As a fan, I wouldn't be okay with it because that's what we've been living with for God knows how long, is just beating on the bad teams and losing to the good teams. I think what it would take for McDaniel to get there, obviously, is to go beyond the 6 or 7, pull the upset in Pittsburgh. That could lead for me to say, maybe there's something still there. Obviously, we saw last week with the Bills, the guys still play hard for him. If you're going to beat the bad teams, beat them impressively. Don't make these games close. Beat them impressively. When you play Cincinnati with Joe Burrow back, go toe-to-toe with Joe Burrow, win that football game. Another conversation. Pittsburgh, again, primetime game. I don't think that one's going to get moved, especially if Miami wins a few games and Pittsburgh's in the mix.
Exactly. If they keep winning, it won't be.
Correct. Go to Pittsburgh and beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. That's a high-quality win, regardless of what the Steelers' record's going to be. That's a high-quality
win. It is. Road win in the cold, in prime time, in the cold. Let me say that again, in the cold. That would be a quality win for a Hall of Fame quarterback. I don't care what you want to say about him. He's still a Hall of Fame quarterback at the end of the day. He ain't that bad.
He's first ballot.
So, yeah, he ain't that bad. I know he's not the same guy he was 9 years ago.
No,
he ain't that bad. That'd be a big, big win. And that'd be a notch for him to say, this year we won home versus the Bills at Pittsburgh. And if he ever found a way to beat Tampa Bay as well, which I know now we're getting crazy, which pretty much we're saying run the table. Tampa at home would also be a big win as well because that's a good team. That's a good team. Not a great team. It's a good team. But I'm with you. Now, look, we both think he ain't getting fired because everything that happened last week on Tuesday at the trade deadline, he's in on the trades. Why? He shouldn't be. One win here versus the Bills is probably enough to con the owner into saying, oh, I got to keep him now. I was like, no, I don't care that he finally won. He finally beat it. He finally won the game versus a team that's good. It only took him 3 years to do it again. I mean, come on here. I mean, I'm not going to go nuts over that. But I do think if they beat up on the Saints and the Jets and Cincinnati and Washington this week, there's 4 more. Say he gets 3 of those 4. He's already got 3. You're 6-11. He's gonna go to Mr. Ross and be like, I got something going now. We were 1-6, and then now we ended the year, finishing hot. That owner is so dumb, he might actually fall for it if you look deep. It's like, yeah, but who'd you beat? You beat Tyler Shuck, Justin Fields, Marcus Mariota, the Cincinnati Bengals who can't stop anyone on defense. It's like, who'd you really beat? And that's not even counting week 18, where if the Patriots got everything locked up, they're going to arrest everybody. He might get a win against their whole second string. It's like, who did you really beat? So I know the fan base, and I'm right there with it. It was giddy on Sunday, hurting the Bills, hurting their season, and getting that win. It's been too long since we actually beat them, and it was great. But let's not, become prisoners of the moment. And I'll think Mike McDaniel's great. Mike McDaniel's a great coach. He drove by the elbow room. I love him. I was like, who gives a shit, honestly? It's like, don't fall for that because this is still a 3-7 team that lost to the Carolina Panthers and blew a lead in 40 seconds to the Chargers, couldn't finish against teams like the Patriots. So, beat Pittsburgh, beat Tampa Bay. If you play New England, if they're healthy, win those games, then we can have a conversation about him possibly returning. But beating the Saints and Jets and Washington honestly does nothing for me and doesn't change my mind on his future one friggin' bit.
Like I said, show me something. Show me something down the stretch. I mean, obviously the conversation right now, I don't think he gets fired unless the team gets absolutely embarrassed in many of these games going down the stretch.
Which is possible at any moment.
And 100% is possible.
Cleveland, Indy, Ravens, it can happen.
Yeah. We'll turn to find out. Indianapolis is a damn good football team.
But still was embarrassed, Tom.
Was embarrassing 100%. Yeah, you come out ill-prepared in week 1 when you have weeks to prepare for a football team, and that's the result. Yeah, that's embarrassing. But if McDaniel shows something, if this team does find a way to get to 7 or 8 wins, but you get those wins like we just talked about, let's say Pittsburgh on the road, and maybe you beat Tampa at home. Or if you go on the road in New England and beat them in the last week of the season while they're still playing all their guys because they're going for something, that tells me a lot, right? I don't know. I don't think he's fired just based on all the reasons you said, and we talked about it in depth already. But show me something. Go and beat Washington.
I'll say this.
On a national level, go beat Washington by 2 touchdowns.
I'll say this, Tom. if they do win 6 or 7 games and then they do fire him, to me, that's a sign Mr. Ross ain't calling the shots anymore.
Yes.
He has a say in
100%
it.
agree with that.
He has a voice, but he ain't to quote The Rock, he ain't the final boss. He's just a voice in the room. He's a voice of 104. He's a voice of 105. And they're doing this as a family with Tom Garfinkel. I'm going to call him part of the family at this point because it seems like he is. Like they're doing this as a group and as a committee at that point. If they win 6 or 7 games and they let them go, this isn't Mr. Ross saying you're fired, you're staying. This is a group decision, which does give me a little bit of hope, actually. Or if, what they should do, and I know some others have said this as well, but it's really true. The old Mike Tannenbaum role, that's what they need, just not Mike Tannenbaum. Give someone who's not the GM, not the head coach, who's the football czar, head of football operations, VP of football, whatever title you want to make up, it don't matter. It's all bullshit titles anyways. Get one guy like a Joe Banner, which we saw last week with that clip everyone saw on social media. And that guy hires a GM and that guy hires the head coach. And he's in charge of everybody. So it's not coming from Ross or Tom Garfinkel. It's coming from the guy they hire to run the thing, which we had Parcells in that role. We had Mike Tannenbaum in that role. We need someone in that role and let them run this thing. Now, look, if you hire someone for that role, Mike McDaniel's getting fired because they're going to bring in their own guy, which is fine by me. But it's like that's what they should do. That's what I hope they do. I don't know if they will because I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We got a lot of time to talk about that. Real quick before we get onto this game. The whole Mike McDaniel driving by the elbow room, is it something you like, hate, or is it freaking dumb?
I will say I like, but it's also at the same time dumb. But look, two things can be true. Mike McDaniel, if he lives in that area, potentially he has to go that way to get home. But there's probably a million other ways to get to where his house is in that area. And he just wanted to make sure that he drove by there because social media is a thing. Even if he's not on it, people talk about it. Elbow room was filled with Bills fans the night before. Well, it was after the game too. I think it was hilarious. At the same time, did he really need to do that? No, you're 3-7. If you did that flex where you're beating the Bills for, outside of the one time in 2022 in the Sun game, if you beat them more consistently, then yeah, all bets are off. Go have fun doing it. But, Sean McDermott and the Bills have just owned the Dolphins for the better part of 8 years at this point. But, I thought it was hilarious. There's a lot of great memes coming out of it. It was great. But a part of me says, not necessary. Let's win some more football games, and then you can go back to being Mike McDaniel.
Yeah. My take on it, I really don't care either way. But my take on it was, it's kind of dumb. First off, I don't get the troll. Like, and this might be because I'm old. Like, if he would have drove by, flipped him off, that's a troll. If he would have drove by, parked the car, got out, and go, let's get ready to suck it, that's a troll. Driving by a bar, I don't get the troll. He just drove by. He did nothing. So I guess if you drive by a bar, now it's trolling. I don't get it. But that might be because I'm old and I don't understand this stuff anymore, maybe. Times have passed me by. So I don't get the troll. But when you're 3-7, if you are trying to troll, and if that is a troll to the kids, it's kind of dumb. And I know Armando Salguero, he goes, wouldn't see Shula do this, which that's the wrong comparison because it's too far removed, too old. You don't see Andy Reid doing this. You don't see Mike Tomlin doing this. You don't see Pete Carroll doing it. Like, you don't see the modern coaches who are good and actually win do this childish kind of stuff. So again, I don't really care. It's not that big a deal. But if you're 3-7, you might want to shut the hell up and win some more games before you start, throwing stuff in people's faces, if that's what his intention was. Again, I don't know what the troll was. He drove by a bar and did nothing. So that's where I'm confused, but I know the fans love it. I've never seen a coach at 3-7 have full fan support, which he has right now. At 3-7, it's like the fans have forgotten about the losing. He drove by a bar. We love him. Okay. Let's hope the team doesn't listen to the fans and their reactions to stuff, because that's crazy to me. But you're 3-7, win some more games. Don't worry about driving by the fans of the Bills. All right. Before we move on to the rest of the show, shout out to everyone watching and listening at finevan.com. Everyone go to finevan.com, the largest Miami Dolphins message board on the internet. Also, wherever you listen to this podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Podbean, Podchaser, subscribe, YouTube as well. As I said, super chats are open. Leave us a super chat. We'll read it on the air. All right. Dolphins, Washington. I think we found a team just as bad as us, Tom. Let's go through some of these numbers. Total offense, Washington 18, Miami 25. Passing offense, Washington 26, Miami 24. Rushing offense, Washington 7, Miami 23. But when it comes to scoring, Washington 22, Miami 26, both at the bottom. And now this is where it gets real interesting. Total defense. This is a team with a head coach in Dan Quinn, a defensive guy who was in the NFC Championship game last year. Get a load of these numbers. Total defense, Washington 30, Miami 24. Passing defense, Washington 31st, Miami 13. Rushing defense, Washington 23rd, Miami 26. Scoring defense, Washington 29th, Miami 24th. I know Miami sucks. We all know that. That's why we're 3-7. But what happened to the Washington Commanders since they were in the NFC Championship game last year? It ain't all Jane Daniels' fault. They can't stop anybody. Tom, you, me, Josh Aaron, Ian Berger, we go out there, probably get a few first downs against them. I don't know if we'd score, but we get a few first downs.
Yeah, I'm confused on Washington and how poor they've been defensively, especially like you said with Dan Quinn. They were pretty good on defense last year, so they took a complete step backwards. I know they traded, was it Sweat last year before the deadline? To Chicago, or was that the year before? I can't remember, but
I can't remember.
They've taken a giant step backwards defensively, so I would expect Miami to take advantage of the mismatches that they're going to have on that side of the ball. Now, conversely, even with Jaden Daniels in, they've looked lost as an offense. Like, again, a complete 180 from where they were a year ago. They can't run the ball efficiently. Their wide receivers are hurt. Their best ones hurt, and Terry McLaurin. You have a gadget guy in Deebo Samuel. Luke McCaffrey's out for the season. Zach Ertz is still there. He's still a viable tight end, so you got to worry about him. But outside of that, this is regardless of what the Dolphins' numbers are in comparison to Washington, we've seen growth with the Miami Dolphins from an offensive perspective. So there is momentum there, and on defense is the same thing. There is momentum defensively. 2 out of the last 3 games, they've looked like world beaters. So I like what I'm seeing.
Yeah. When Miami has the ball this week versus horrible defense, I'm going to say this. Whatever you did last week, just same. Keep running. Keep running Achane. Look for Waddle on the play action pass. Again, Washington is 31st against the pass. Waddle should have a big day. Try to get some other guys involved there too. Run Achane. Probably get Ali Gordon and Wright involved too there, because you can't just use Achane so much. We are 3-7. You don't want to run him in the ground here in a lost season. Don't just go run heavy. Don't go pass happy. Go a little bit of balance on offense, but get the balls in the hands of your playmakers and let them go wild. So that's what I do here, and they should have success getting points. When Washington has the ball, this game reminds me a lot of the Atlanta game. The only difference is Washington doesn't have Bijan Robinson. You got Marcus Mariota, Kirk Cousins 2.0. Get after him, bring pressure on him, force him into mistakes, make Washington's offense one-dimensional. They got some running backs who aren't bad, but take away the passing game. No Jaden Daniels, no Terry McLaurin. Just, force Marcus Mariota, which won't be hard, to look like Kirk Cousins when we played Atlanta. And I think the Miami will have success on both sides of the ball this week. This is actually a great matchup for Miami. I think the X factor in the whole game overall really is Spain, who handles the travel better. We've seen teams go over there, treat it like a vacation, and not even focus on the game and get their doors blown off. And we've seen teams go over there and, they just focus more because they're just away from everything and win. So whoever handles the travel well at the end of the day probably will win. But this is a favorable matchup for Miami in a lot of areas, Tom.
Yeah. I think overall, like you said, do what you did last week, and conversely with the defense, same thing, right? You want to attack Marcus Mariota. You don't want him to be able to run. They did a good job bottling up Josh Allen last week. First time I think I've ever said that, to be honest. Mariota can run. He can sling it. I mean, is he good? Nah, no, he's an average quarterback. But he has no weapons.
You're being kind with average. He was average. Now he's just bad, I think.
Yeah, Bill Ja'Cory Croskett Merritt or whatever his name was. He's been struggling. They've replaced him with Chris Rodriguez.
He's hurt too.
And so everything is just lining up for the Miami Dolphins. And if Anthony Weaver, keeps his blueprint from what he had last week and just attack Washington the same way they attacked the Bills, Miami should win this game against Washington. But you just never know with the 2025 version of the Miami Dolphins. That's
the thing, because honestly, on paper, we look at who's not playing for them. We look at what Miami just did last week at home versus the Bills. You look at the matchups. You look at the numbers, who's ranked where, and all that stuff. To me, it's one of those games where if Miami loses, seriously, I don't want this guy back at all next year. There's not even a conversation for McDaniel. But we know they could go out there and easily lose because we've seen them lose 31-6 to Cleveland. It's like nothing is surprising because this team, the team we saw last Sunday versus the Bills, we might get once or twice a year. We don't get it every week. So the odds of us seeing that team again this week, it could happen. We hope it happens.
Yeah.
It might not happen because we're not that team. We don't have that type of coach who has his team ready week after week after week after week. We have a coach who has his team ready once every 8 weeks. We'll have a nice game. We'll show up.
Just be more consistent. And if you can be more consistent, particularly, from last week to this week, and then after the bye week, if you can stay consistent against those two bad football teams, we could be coming on the show, Mike, and going, God damn, the Dolphins are 6-7.
Look, we've won 2 of our last 3. If they beat Washington, the Saints at home, and at the Jets, that means we're going to win 4 in a row and 5 of our last 6. Like, that's not crazy talk for a team that's 3-7. If we said that last month, people would say, "What are you out of your, minds?" But right now, for what we saw last week versus the Bills, thinking we can't beat a Washington team that's hurt, the Saints at home with Tyler Shuck, Justin Fields on the road, that's not crazy talk.
No, it's really not. The table set for the Dolphins to at least maybe have a conversation going into the final, 4 games of the season. Can this team sneak in? I mean, my guess is no at this point. But you're gonna
be on the graphic in the hunt.
You're gonna spark the conversation, right? And that's what's gonna potentially keep Mike McDaniel in play is be in the conversation. If they lose this game, what they did last week against Buffalo doesn't matter at this point.
Yeah, I know, really.
But they got to string it together. They have to beat Washington on Sunday.
Let me say this too, to all the networks listening, and I know you are: NBC, CBS, Fox, ESPN, NFL Network. If Miami does run off some wins here against Washington, the Saints, and the Jets, and they get to we'd be at 5-6 wins, whatever. Do not put them in the graphic for in the hunt. We're not in the hunt. We're one of the worst teams in the league. We just happen to win some games against garbage teams. When you do the in the hunt graphic, leave us off. We do not belong in that graphic. I don't care what the record says. This is not a team that's in the hunt for anything. Do not, just because you beat some garbage teams, do not put us on the graphic for in the hunt. Make the graphic smaller. They always put, 10 teams in the hunt. Half of those teams are got no chance. We're one of those teams. Don't insult people's intelligence and put us in the hunt graphic, okay? We know it's not happening. I mean, you just look at the North alone with the Ravens and Pittsburgh, out west with the Broncos, the Chargers, the Chiefs, in the East with the Bills and the Patriots. Keep your graphic to that. Do not add Miami. If we do win some games against Washington, put us in the hunt. There's no hunt. The hunt's over. We're dead. Do not put us in the hunt graphic, please. It's just, don't insult people's intelligence. Oh, my God. They put 10 teams in the hunt. Teams got 4 wins in December. They're in the hunt. In the hunt for what? Oh, they do it every year. It drives me nuts.
They
Okay,
do.
my soapbox.
You know, I laugh about it because they truly do that crap.
It's like, here's your division winners, here's your 3 wild cards, and here's your in the hunt. They list 10 teams. It's the whole goddamn conference at that point. The whole conference ain't in the hunt. We have no tiebreakers. We're 3-7, beating the Saints and Jets and Washington with their backups. Really, I know the record might look decent. We're not in the hunt. Trust me, we're not. We've been passed by these teams all year. All right. It's that time of the show. It's now time for Mike and Tom's Fearless Predictions. Dolphins, well, Commanders technically at the Dolphins at 9:30 a.m. Eastern on the NFL Network from Spain. Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilma, who had a big weekend last weekend for reasons we won't say, on the call. Tom, what's your prediction?
I expect what I saw last week from the Miami Dolphins. I expect a lot more play action passes. I expect a lot more disguised blitzes. I expect a lot of exotic looks up front on defense to cause havoc for Marcus Mariota. I firmly believe that the Miami Dolphins will run the football, run it well, and control the game from start to finish. I think Tua's going to have a clean game. I think he'll throw a couple touchdown passes, throw for about 200, 220 yards. I think as a unit, the Dolphins will run for 150 plus. And defensively, I think they're going to cause 2 more turnovers this week against a banged up Washington team. The table is set for the Dolphins to go to Spain on a national, on an international scale and beat this team and beat them soundly. Final score of this game for me is the Dolphins will win 24, Washington 13.
All right, there it is, 24-13. And yes, in the chat, if you have a prediction, put them up and we'll share them here at the end of the show. Madrid, Spain. Great freaking beaches. Paella. Gazpacho. Fine wine. Finer women. The backdrop for this American football game this Sunday morning. Dare I say, 2 teams going in different directions. Dolphins come into this game winners 2 of their last 3. And coming in off a blowout win versus the Buffalo Bills, where the Miami Dolphins played flawless football. The Dolphins treated the Bills the way a baby treats a diaper. Washington comes in on a 5-game losing streak and losing 6 of their last 7. No Jaden Daniels, no Terry McLaurin, and they are forced to try and win with Marcus Mariota in the year 2025. That's not good. Can the Dolphins keep the momentum going and take advantage of a team that is sinking like a stone? That is the question. The Commanders stink on defense. They're ranked near the bottom of the league in every meaningful category. Devon Achane looks like a young LaDainian Tomlinson. Jalen Waddle looks like a young Don Hudson, also known as the Alabama Antelope. If you don't know who Don Hudson is, look him up. You're probably on a smartphone watching this. Look him up. The Dolphins offense, 2 of the last 3 weeks, has been cooking with gas. And I think that will continue this week versus a bad Washington defense. Achane goes for 100-plus yards on the ground. Waddle goes for 100-plus yards in the air. In a bold prediction, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine gets his first touchdown of the season. And on defense, Miami's going to pick up where they left off last week, getting after Marcus Mariota and making his life hell because, like Kirk Cousins when he played Atlanta, this guy's terrible. Dan Quinn, who, by the way, does look like a guy who eats cake while sitting on the toilet, will be in for a long day. And I haven't put this on since week 2. Miami 27, Washington 13. Fins up.
Wow.
There you go.
Man, it's been a minute since I've seen that on your head.
Well, they haven't given me a reason to.
Exactly.
They haven't given me a reason to. But yeah, I like Miami 27-13. I think they're going to win this game. I think they should win this game. And if they actually lose this game, it just is more further proof that they got the wrong head coach at that point. Because you cannot go up and down week to week like this. Play lights out at home versus the Bills, where you play your best game probably in years, and then follow it up 7 days later versus a team who's got everyone hurt, got a backup quarterback, lost 5 in a row, and go out there and lose to them. Seriously, if that happens, there's no debate in my mind. Then look, I think he's got to go anyways because he's a lousy head coach, McDaniel. But if he loses this game, the debate's over. He stinks. He's got to go. Like, you cannot lose this game to Washington's backups.
No.
Coming in a 5-game losing streak. I'm sorry.
No, you absolutely can't. This is like one of those. I mean, you can't even call it a trap game, but for Mike McDaniel, this is a trap game for him. Everything is set up for the Miami Dolphins to go in and win this football game and should do it handily. But because they haven't really proven it all season to back it up, you went into Atlanta and absolutely beat the snot out of the Falcons. And then you followed up with an absolute dud on Thursday Night Football against Baltimore. So show me you can do it 2 times in a row. Make a fool out of me. And again, then we go into the bye week and the chips fall where they may for the rest of the season with very, very winnable games on the docket after the bye week. But don't put the cart in front of the horse, Mike. Win the football on Sunday and see where things go from there.
Yeah, with this team, you never get too excited about anything because they will find ways to let you down time and time again. Yep. That's what this franchise does best. It will let you down. But I do have a little bit of optimism heading into this game that I think they're going to win. Just because coming off last week's game, how can you not? I mean, Jesus Christ, how can you not? They played so well last week versus the Bills. To come out versus a team that they clearly have more talent than, they're healthier than, which is crazy because we have so many guys on IR. But they're healthier than this team. And here's something else too. That big game for the quarterback. That big game for Tua. This team is 31st against the pass. Don't go out there and have one of your 2 or 3 interception type games and lose. Look, we know he will either be here next year or not, more based on how much money he's due and what the new GM wants to do. We know that's like a large factor, but you can make that guy's job a lot easier if you throw a 3-interception game or a 2-interception game to a Washington team that's 31st against the pass, 29th in points allowed, and lose. Like, at some point, you just make that guy's job easy. It's like, I don't care what the cap it is. He's just got to go. Don't have a bad game against this team. You want to have if he goes out there and plays really bad versus Pittsburgh, fine. I mean, not fine, but is what it is, I guess. But not this team. I'm sorry, not this team. So this is a big game for the quarterback, too, to shut up some people. Because he had to shut up anybody in my eyes. It's been a bad year for him. And last week doesn't change that. Last week does not change that.
It's the turnovers, right? This is something that he typically, yes, has he thrown interceptions? Absolutely, he's thrown interceptions in a season, but this is career highs for him at this point. You got to stop turning the ball over because eventually it's going to bite him in the ass. It didn't hurt him last week. Here's
what I'm going to say, and here's someone in our chat brought this up. David, those 3rd down arm punts are not INTs. Like hell they aren't their interceptions. And I'm sorry. Look, I don't believe half the crap Mike McDaniel says. I don't believe half the crap the quarterback says anymore. They have no benefit of the doubt. This nonsense on 3rd and long, we're just going to throw it up far and long and hope for the best. That is grade A level bullshit. Those are interceptions. I'm sorry they are. Yeah. This guy Jake Bailey's been great this year. He might go to the Pro Bowl. Not that there is one, but you know what I mean. Be voted as a Pro Bowl punter. We don't want to punt anymore, so we're telling our quarterback just throw it up there. It doesn't matter if it's picked off. Folks, if you believe that, you really will believe any line of shit this team will try to sell you. I mean, that is grade A level bullshit. Those are interceptions. Yeah. Now, if he's being told by the head coach to do it, another reason why the head coach sucks. I'm not buying that for a second. Those are interceptions, bad passes, and they're falling back on, well, I was told to do it. If Mike McDaniel told you to walk off a bridge, would you? No, I'd say, Mike, no, I'm going to try and get a 1st down here. I mean, good Lord, guys making $50 million. Have some balls and tell the head coach, no, I'm not doing that. If it's even happening, which I don't even think it is.
Right. The first, going back to it, really, now that this is a conversation, the first interception was terrible. Throwing it in a double coverage is never an ideal situation. And on the second one, it's not even firmly planted his foot, his back foot, and he's just throwing off his front foot and just heaving the ball up into the air. That's a gimme interception, right? you can't do those things. And there's probably some chances for underneath shots. The way this offense is designed, there's somebody there, either near the line of scrimmage or sit in the middle of the field for a quick dump off and then punt the ball away. I don't need 50-yard passes for interception.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
I don't need that.
Yeah,
just punt the ball, and it's again for things that I don't say on this show. Jake Bailey is having a great season.
He is.
He's having a great season. I can't shit on the guy. He's really doing great. Let him be the guy to punt the ball. That punt against Buffalo last week was phenomenal. It's phenomenal. It really flipped the field. Completely.
And this whole notion where now if it's 3rd and long, we'll just throw it up as high and far as you can, because just as good as like we're giving up on a play. We're not good enough to give up on plays. This whole notion where it's an interception that really doesn't count. No bullshit. It counts. Got making $50 million. It counts. Okay. So I'm not buying that line of crap. I know they said it. They say a lot of stuff. They lie a lot too. And they have a track record of being caught in their lies. I ain't buying it. And if that is their logic, if they truly are doing this, then they are dumber than I thought. They really are dumber than I thought. Because what team would do this? Come on. All right. Let's get to the picks. You were 1-2 last week. I was 0-3 together. 1-5. Folks, here's what I always tell you. Bet the college game. Betting the pros is a losing proposition. So let's do this quick here. Since I'm still losing, I get to go first with my picks. I got my picks. I want to open up the line, see if anything. First, here's my 2 locks. First off, I'm going Thursday night. New England minus 12.5 over the Jets. I know the Jets have won a couple in a row here. No Wilson at wide receiver. They traded away everyone on defense. They beat Cleveland last week. I can't get excited beating Cleveland, and they barely beat Cleveland. And he scored 2 touchdowns on special teams. New England, I'm saying this right now, Tom, November 12th. They're going to be the 1 seed in the AFC. They're going to be the 1 because the Colts got a few hard games. Out west, those teams are going to beat each other up. If you look at the Patriots' schedule, home versus the Bills, who they already beat, and I think they got 1 game versus the Broncos, I think. Other than that, it's Cupcake City. Give me New England minus 12.5 at home versus the Jets, number 1. Number 2, because I hate New York, I guess, give me Green Bay bouncing back minus 7 against the Giants. Jameis Winston, everyone's going to like him. He ain't any good. He throws pick sixes like they're going out of style. New England minus 12.5 Jets. Green Bay minus 7 over the Giants.
All right. I did it last week. Now I'm going to flip the script this week. I'm taking Miami minus 2.5 against the Commanders with all the reasons
for the jinx. Beautiful
that we talked about. Can't go through it again, but I am the jinx. But that's a minus 2.5 with a banged up Washington team. I'll take the confidence on a neutral site. And pretty much a home game for the Dolphins. There's a lot of fans in Spain, which is why they put the Dolphins there. Second one, give me the Chargers minus 3 over Jacksonville. Did you watch that abomination in Houston last week? The Jaguars are up 29-10 going into the fourth quarter and lost 36-29. That is an abomination. The Chargers far and away a better football team. And I'm liking what I'm seeing with Justin Herbert and Ladd McConkey really getting going right now. And they're still able to run the ball with Kamani Vidal. So give me the Chargers.
No offensive line. On the road. And they got no offensive line. They're all out for the year.
No,
they're all hurt.
They're still
finding a way. You know why? They have a good coach.
They certainly
no
do.
Excuses. They have a great coach. Okay, for the upset, I'm picking this team. And even though their head coach looks so much like Adam Gase, it's scary. Give me the Bears plus 3 over Minnesota. I don't know what you're getting with the Vikings week to week anymore. J.J. McCarthy makes 1 or 2 plays a game where he makes you go, wow, he did that. And that every other play, he looks like shit. So I don't know what you're getting with Minnesota. The Bears, that offense is humming. Caleb Williams is played very well this year. I think next year he's going to have a breakout year like you wouldn't believe. This guy is starting to live up to the hype coming out from USC. That offense has got weapons. They got 2 running backs who are good. They got a bunch of receivers. Loveland at tight end. The offensive line's not horrible anymore. It ain't great, but it ain't horrible. I like the Bears. I like them plus 3. versus the Vikings, who you don't know what you're going to get week to week from McCarthy. That's my upset.
My upset, I'm staying close to home this week. I'm going to take Tampa Bay plus 5.5 on the road at Buffalo. Buffalo has been struggling. Yes, they beat the Chiefs. But prior to the Chiefs game, they struggled against the New Orleans Saints at home. They lost a few games before that Chiefs game. They looked absolutely lost against the Miami Dolphins. Tampa Bay is a good football team. Baker Mayfield has been playing some good ball, even with the injuries. Buffalo's going to have a very hard time with Emeka Egbuka this week. They're going to have a hard time stopping Rashad White. And there's even the slimmest of chances that Bucky Irvin could be back, as he's back at practice on Wednesday in a limited fashion. So there's a chance they may have their starting running back. Even if they don't, I like Rashad White. I have liked Rashad White. And I think they're going to run the ball on Buffalo. And weather's not a factor. It's supposed to be, I think, in the mid-50s on Sunday. That's not home field advantage for the Bills. Plus 5.5 is a lot. I'll take it.
Sorry, I had to sneeze. Hope you're right. Because like I said, the one thing I want this year, I want the Bills not to have a home playoff game. The last year that got off a rotten stadium, I want that last game at home for them, probably week 17 or 18, whatever it is. I just don't want them to get a home playoff game. I think that would be awesome. What a way to close out that stadium, not to get a home playoff game in a year where everyone kind of picked them to win the Super Bowl. And I'm going to say this too. Here's another thing I'm going to say. November 12th, mark your calendar, Tom. The team playing in the Super Bowl in the AFC this year will be the Baltimore Ravens.
If they can stay healthy,
they're back.
They can stay healthy.
They're back, and their schedule ain't too bad. They're going to run through Cincinnati, run through Cleveland, run through Pittsburgh. They're going to get a home playoff game. They won't get the bye. Don't matter, because I think the Patriots will get the bye, and I think that's a team that can go to New England and win. The only way I wouldn't like them is if they have to go to Kansas City in the playoffs, which who knows. But I think the Ravens are a team that got off to a rough start, a ton of injuries. They're all coming back healthy now, and you look at the AFC, I don't trust the Colts in a playoff game. I don't trust the Patriots yet in a playoff game. I don't trust at all this year a team like the Bills. They just look like they can't stop anybody. The Chiefs are still the Chiefs at the end of the day. But even the Chargers got so many injuries. I don't like anybody in the South. I think the Ravens are going to be, Ravens might go 10-6, 9-7, win the North, and make the Super Bowl. That would not shock me in the least. I actually think it's going to happen. And I probably should go put down some money on that right now, honestly.
Now they're the favorites to win the division, and they're 4-6.
Yeah, exactly. Just because the rest of the division is such a mess. Yeah, and I think Thanksgiving night is that Ravens Cincinnati, which like 1 month ago everyone's like, oh, that's gonna be the worst game ever. Look, Cincinnati's not great, I know. Yeah, if you get Joe Burrow back, at least Cincinnati's got a shot. And then you got the Ravens probably on a hot streak by then. That actually might be a pretty good game. You also got on that day, you got Chiefs Cowboys, which I know it's the Cowboys, but at least you get Pat Mahomes in the game with Taylor Swift probably watching. And then I think earlier is Lions Packers. That won. So that's not a bad day.
No, it's good. It's good Thanksgiving games this year.
Last month it looked awful. Right now it looks pretty good.
It's looking good. If the Packers can find their mojo back,
I think the Packers will be fine. I'll say this too about the Philadelphia Eagles. Look, AJ Brown, the team's 7-2 or something. You say, why are you complaining? Your team's 7-2. I've watched him a few times this year. I know why he's complaining. That offense, yes, they win. So God love them. And they beat the Chiefs. They beat a lot of teams who are good. They beat the Packers. They've beaten teams that are good. So it's tough to complain. They got to fix that offense or they ain't winning the playoffs, because you cannot run Saquon Barkley every time. Throw it to Saquon Barkley. Ignore Smith and Brown and think you're going to win. You're going to win now, September, October, November. They got to get those wide receivers involved in that offense. Otherwise, what's the point of having them? Like, they don't even look at A.J. Brown. He catches 2 passes a game now. I think he had one game. He had one game that was good, but every other game he might catch 2. Like, what are they doing?
Here's a bold prediction for you, and you can mark this on November 12th as well before we wrap up the show. A.J. Brown will be a New England Patriot in the offseason.
I believe it. Yep. They got the most draft picks and they got the most salary cap space.
And he'll be back with his head coach.
He'll be back with his head coach. I totally agree with that. I totally agree. He's going to be in New England next year. They can part with a ton of picks. They got a ton of that thing about the Patriots. They're going to be a 1 seed or they're going to win the East. They go into the offseason with like $70 million under the cap to spend, and they have like 13 picks, the most picks of any team in the draft. They're only going to get better. The Jets, Miami, and the Bills let this happen under their nose. And I don't want to hear about curses in Miami just being stupid. They let this team rebuild faster than them. And what did they do last year? Mayo, he got 1 year. Yeah, you ain't it. I ain't waiting around. I can give you another chance. See ya. And they brought in a real head coach. Because that's what real owners do. That's what real franchises do. You don't give a guy a 3 year. I like him. I think he's going to turn it around. Let's give him another opportunity. No, you fire the guy when you know he sucks, and you're bringing someone who's good. That's what Robert Kraft did, and that ain't cheating. That's just being smart. And let's hope someone in the Dolphins, Silman or whoever, can talk some sense into old man Ross for us doing the same thing this offseason. But let's end the show there. Everyone, thank you for watching. Be sure to go to the website, DolphinsTalk.com. A bunch of new articles and stuff up there. Podcast up last night with Josh and Aaron. They're going to be back tomorrow night as well. You got this show. Marissa, she's going to be back next week probably with some shows, or at least with one show there with probably an interview. This weekend, you got the pregame show with Eric and Robert Burns. Myself and Doug will probably do a show. Myself and Allie, Dolph Freaky. Let's get freaky with it. We'll probably have a show. So be on the lookout for all the shows. And how do you be on the lookout? Subscribe to the Dolphins Talk YouTube channel. Subscribe to the Dolphins Talk podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts is the best way. Everyone have a great evening. We'll talk to you again after a while. And folks, when you're on the road, do not forget, we still must put an end to highway profanity.
Fins up.